Hi, this is Steve Rosenberg, and I want to thank you for watching the episode with Lee and myself. What we talk about on this show is how to create a healthy lifestyle while you're traveling, how entrepreneurs do it, how I do it as an airline pilot. But we also talk a lot about creating memories and creating the life that you want to have with your loved ones. Tragically, several hours after recording this episode, my wife and I lost our son, Jet Rosenberg, in a tragic motorcycle accident at 19 years old. We've learned that creating memories is all we can do. In his honor, we have created a foundation to help kids in high school that would like to go to trade school but cannot afford it. It's going to be called Live Like Jet Foundation. If you're interested and you'd like to know more about it and you'd like to contribute to the Live Like Jet Fund, please reach out to us on social media, either Lee or myself. We'd be happy to give you the information, or you can email me directly at steve@steverosenberg.com. Again, steve@steverosenberg.com, and start learning how you can help others create the memories that they want to create. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
My guest today was forced to realize that his flying job was nowhere near as safe and secure as he originally thought. So he chose to become one of the best known motivational speakers in the real estate industry. Steve Rosenberg, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
And how did you become a pilot?
That was my destiny, I guess you could say, to fly airplanes.
You're on a mission.
I'm on a mission.
911 happens.
9/11 hit, and 2 days after 9/11, I got delivered a furlough notice.
You're wondering, what am I going to do now?
What am I going to do? I am unhireable.
Welcome to the Lee Labrada Show.
Hey everybody, this is Lee Labrada, and my guest today is an international commercial airline pilot who, after the tragedies of 9/11, was forced to realize that his safe and secure flying job was nowhere near as safe and secure as he originally thought. So he chose to get into real estate investing to be able to control his own destiny and create his own generational wealth. He created the fastest growing property management company in the state of Texas, managing over 1,000 properties in 3 major metropolitan cities, built his business up and positioned his company for a very profitable exit. He's gone on to become one of the best known influencers and motivational speakers in the real estate industry. You'd think that he would retire after that, but not him. He is still flying because he loves it so much. So today we're going to be asking him about a wide variety of topics, from how he eats to how he works out to stay fit when he's flying these big planes around the world, to how he adapts his internal bioclock while traveling across time zones. And yes, we'll ask him how he motivated himself to start a side hustle that generated millions of dollars for him and his family. Steve Rosenberg, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Lee. It's great to see you.
It's so great to have you here, my friend. It's great to see you again. Now, Steve, you just had a birthday.
I did. I just hit a milestone, half century.
Yes, you did. And you look amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's you start realizing that whether you like it or not, we are aging, and there are certain things we can't do anymore, despite what we tell ourselves. We still do them.
Well, I don't see much limiting you, buddy.
I'm not slowing down, but I do have to maybe get out of my car a little bit more sideways. I can't spring up anymore and things like that. But
yeah, Steve's about 6'3". That's why he has to get out of his car sideways.
Yeah,
you know me, I just pop out.
You just pop out. Yeah.
So I'd like to just ask you about being a commercial airline pilot.
Sure.
What got you interested in aviation? How did you become a pilot?
Yeah. So growing up, I was in Los Angeles, and I really just remember looking up at the sky and just seeing these planes, and living in Los Angeles, flights going westbound, they were going over the water. And I just remember thinking to myself, where do they go? Like, where do these things go once they leave ground? And I just thought, well, how cool would that be to do that? I knew nothing about the training. I didn't have any family members in the business. I just thought, I'd like to do that one day.
So you just got up one day and said, it'd be cool to learn how to fly one of those big planes.
Well, I'm one of those people that once I set my mind to it, I don't really talk about stuff until I've decided to do it.
Right.
So I'm not one of these people that says it and then pivots. If I say it, I'm committed to it. I've always been that way. And I remember I was in 8th or 9th grade and people were trying to figure out what they want to do. And I thought, I'm going to be a pilot. No one else was going to be a pilot. So I thought, I want to be a pilot. And whenever in school growing up, what do you want to do for college? I want to be a pilot. So I want to go to flying schools. And I just kept going down that path and that was my destiny, I guess you could say, to fly airplanes. And that's what I did.
So how old were you when you became a pilot?
I was 18 years old. I got my pilot's license, and I did a bodybuilding competition.
Okay.
My first bodybuilding competition as a teenager. It was the Ironman Iron Maiden in Los Angeles.
Okay. How did you do?
I got 3rd place.
Great.
It was an ESPN show and all that stuff. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed doing it. What was so interesting to me, I came from playing football. And so doing this was the fact that nobody cared if I went to the gym or not. Nobody cared if I did the extra rep. And it was all so mental, and it was so new to me, that mental drive to keep being better and better. And I think that a lot has to do with who I am today, because nobody really cares if you're successful or not if you don't. And so I remember using that same drive after I did my bodybuilding show to put towards my flying effort. And normally when you get a pilot's license, I did it at a local community college, and because I was pretty much self-funding myself, I went to a local community college and I went to a flying club in Burbank, California, and I joined a flying club to get my hours. And the average time that it takes someone to get their private pilot's license is maybe a year and a half, 2 years, so many hours you have to accumulate to get your license. I did it in about 8 weeks. I mean, I literally every day was at the airport flying, and they're like, wow.
So you were bound and determined.
I was bound and determined. And within 2 years, I got all of my ratings that I needed.
To become a commercial airline pilot?
Well, technically, yes, to have the ratings. Now, you still needed to get the hours to get it.
Okay.
And I just had that same drive where most people were like, in 2 years, they were barely getting their private pilot.
What caused that drive? Were you just envisioning yourself flying these big birds?
I didn't even know what I would be doing as a pilot. I didn't know what a jet engine was versus a propeller engine. I just thought, this is what I'm putting my mind to. I was done with football. I'd done a couple bodybuilding shows. This was the next source of my energy. And I just had that determination that this is what I was going to do it wasn't even a question. This is what I'm doing. Now, I was still working out at the time.
Right.
And this is what I was going to do. And that was the drive, that nothing was going to stop me until I achieved my goal.
Okay. So you achieve your goal of getting the commercial pilot's license.
Correct.
And then how did you work your way into flying these big planes that you fly today?
Well, it's funny because I didn't have the experience or the flight hours, as we would grade that at the time. And I was going to Cal State Los Angeles, working out at a gym in World's Gym, Pasadena, I remember. And I was just accumulating my hours as fast as I could. And all of my money, everything went towards paying for flight hours. And the guy who was my instructor through all of my ratings got offered a job flying cargo, but he had already gotten another job with a commuter airline. So the guy says, "Hey, I'm really in a bind. Do you know anyone?" He says, "Well, I know this guy who's really determined, and he's a pretty hard charger, but he doesn't have the hours." He says, "Well, let me meet him." So I drive up to San Luis Obispo, California. I meet the guy. He gives me a job. And I am now going to college full-time and flying full-time. So I'm flying during the day, cargo, and I'm going to college at night, taking night classes.
So you're on a mission.
I'm on a mission. And it wasn't like I was hard charging because I wanted to accomplish something. It just seemed like that's what you do. If you want to achieve a goal,
You just got to keep moving forward.
you just got to keep moving forward. Like,
Pick a direction.
why would I not?
Move forward. I tell a lot of young people that these days.
Yeah.
They'll say, how did you get to where you're at? You know what? You pick a direction and you just start moving forward. In my own case, I studied engineering.
Yeah.
But I'm not an engineer today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can say I engineer bodies.
Yeah, true.
But the thing is, people don't realize that sometimes you make career changes. But the important thing is to pick a direction and keep moving forward.
Yeah. I've heard the term, a fish doesn't know it's in water.
Right.
And I think about that a lot because I didn't know that I was excelling past my peers. I was just doing what I thought I should do.
Came natural to you.
Yeah. And so I was in my senior year of college and I ended up getting offered a job with TWA Airlines, which was a commuter version of TWA out of St. Louis. And I still had a year left of college, which was not the norm. Most people, what I ended up learning after is most people would go to college, get their 4-year degree, then they would pick up the flying lessons. So they would be maybe 8 years into this, 4 years of the college and then 4 years of flying. So they're at year 8 before they even get their first job.
Right.
I'm in year 3.
So that means you had to have been a young pilot.
I was very young. Okay. I got hired with TWA. I was 21 years old.
Wow.
And I was out. So I talked to one of my professors and I said, what should I do? And he said, Steve, in the airline business, you take the seniority number. You can always come back and get your degree.
Good for him.
So
he gave you good advice.
He did. So I packed up my car and I drove to St. Louis. I got a job and I was flying out of St. Louis. And I ended up coming back to Fresno, California, which is just north of Los Angeles. And I resumed via correspondence. Now, back then, correspondence this is in 1995. There was no computers. So they actually had to mail me my books and my curriculum.
Right.
And I had to go to a university to get proctored the test. And so I did that. I got my degree. And then as soon as I got my degree, I took the first captain upgrade I could do when I was old enough. So you have to be 23 at the time for your airline transport pilot license. I was 22 and a half. So I wasn't old enough to accept the position. So I had to wait 6 months. I took the first slot I could, which was in New York, JFK. I'd never been to New York in my life. I drive out to New York as a captain. And I did all the upgrades.
At 22.
I just turned 23. I just turned 23.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so now I'm in New York. I'm flying as a captain up and down the East Coast. Had no idea that Boston was north or south of me. I just didn't know any of that stuff because I was so focused on school, getting my license, everything. I was still working out. I'll never forget.
How did you find time to work out when you're doing all this stuff?
What I would do is so I was living in Huntington Beach with my girlfriend, now wife at the time. We had an apartment in Huntington Beach and I was based in New York in JFK. So what I would do is I had a car at New York. And as soon as I would land, I always had a bag with gym clothes in it. And as soon as I would land from the red eye flying all night long as a passenger, because I'd be basically repositioned to New York because that's where I started my trips. Right. And so as soon as I would land, I would get in my car, I would go right to the gym and I would just work out.
So preparation. You brought your bag. You already had your schedule in mind. The second you landed, you were off to the gym. And do you find that helped you?
Absolutely. To this day, and
is that what you still do?
Still do it to this day.
Even on these long international flights?
I don't even give it it's not an option.
It's not you're just on, well, pardon the pun, you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically you just get off the plane and you go straight to the nearest gym.
I just go to the gym. I would join a gym. I was working out at a Gold's Gym out there and I have a powerhouse gym in California. And that's just what you do.
That's what you do.
Why would you not? And then what I would do is I was on layovers. I would try to find a gym I could go to, like in different cities, or a hotel gym, or I would use that as kind of my rest day,
right.
if I had to.
Right.
Because some days when you're flying in those commuter days, it was not easy to find the time. But I never gave myself a reason that I couldn't do it.
Right. And sometimes you just have to go through the motions until you feel like doing it. Because that happens to me a lot of times, I wouldn't say a lot of times, but from time to time, if I don't get enough sleep that night or whatever, it's like, oh my God, I don't feel like working out today. Yeah, that happens to me still after 40 years of working out.
Yeah.
But you know what? I always make myself go to the gym and I make myself work out for at least 10 minutes before I ask myself, how do I feel?
Yeah.
And it's like 9 times out of 10, by the time that I get 10 minutes into the workout, I'm great.
Absolutely.
It's just like my mindset's different. My blood's moving. I feel great about it. And then it's like, there's no feeling like that feeling of satisfaction after you have finished your workout.
Yeah. And I've done a lot of self-development and learning about myself. And I've learned that we all have these triggers.
Right.
And so the triggers for me, I get up in the morning and I've got my rituals and my habits that I do in the morning.
Yes.
Same thing when I land, I have my habits and rituals.
Yes.
I could never imagine driving up to the gym or going to where I need to go and opening the door and saying, no, I'm not going to go today. And try. That would be I couldn't imagine. And
Right.
I've heard people say that, like, I got to the gym and I decided not to go. I'm like, the hardest battle was just getting there. The mental aspect of getting yourself there.
That's right.
So as you said, as I progressed, I ended up getting hired at Continental Airlines at 25. I was the second youngest person at the time hired with Continental.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And I got based in Guam. So I was living in Guam, and believe it or not, that was probably one of the best gyms I had ever trained at in Guam. It was a Gold's Gym.
So was that the start of your flying internationally? Because I know you do a lot of that these days.
Yeah, that was the start, because out of Guam, everything is, it's in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean,
right?
Australia, Indonesia, Tokyo, all over Japan, and places like that. And I enjoyed it, but I still, again, it was one of that thing, as you know, my wife, Renee, all we know is working out. I mean, it's just part of your day.
That's just part of your DNA.
It's just part of us. I don't know the person that I would be today if I didn't have that in my life.
To work out.
To work out.
And I know that a lot of our viewers do work out, and they can attest to that very thing. It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle. It's like breathing. It's like fish and water.
Yes.
And so, as I've matured and grown, and if I had hair, it'd be gray, probably, I'm sure. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that it's just more and more essential to keep me on a rhythm. And you had mentioned I do a lot of it. All I do is international now.
Right. And so this really, it leads me to this question. It really piques my curiosity. When you're flying international, you're crossing several time zones.
Yeah.
And some of the places that you fly to, I know you fly to Europe. We've talked about that. We've talked about the fact that you fly to Asia.
Yeah.
Some of those are like, 17, 18-hour flights?
Well, I used to do Houston to Sydney, Australia direct, which was 17 and a half hours, second longest flight out in the world.
So how do you keep from feeling like a mashed potato when you get there? What do you do on the flight? And then I'm going to ask you like what you actually take with you and what you eat.
Yeah. So first of all, like I start my day like any other day. I start my day at 4 a.m. I get up, I go to the gym. Now
that might be half the battle right there, because if you're getting up at 4 a.m. and you're flying to Europe, it's already 11 a.m. over there, so it's not that big of a change.
Yeah, but I'm still flying all night.
Yeah.
So when I was doing Sydney, Australia, it was a 17-hour flight, and we have bunks, right? It's called a double augmented crew. So there's 4 pilots on that route.
Okay.
So I can take first break or second break, which is a 7-hour break.
Okay.
So
do you sleep?
I do. We have bunks, and I would sleep.
Do you sleep at a certain time to adjust to the clock at the next place, or do you just kind of stay on your own rhythm?
Everybody has their own voodoo of what they do in the airline industry.
I'm curious what you do. How do you adjust to the time zone?
I am one of those people that I have learned that, and this is taught to me by the old school guys that I learned from flying. When you land, you turn on your phone or you reset your watch, and that is the time you're on.
Okay.
And you start your day. Okay. Now, I'll tell you what I do for Europe, and I'll tell you different things. So for Europe, we get about a 3-hour break on the flight over, which is about a 10-hour flight from Houston to destinations in Europe. We'll get about a 3-hour break. So I will sleep on the plane for 3 hours. What I do is I land, and I will set myself for a 1 to maybe 2-hour nap as soon as I get in.
Okay.
As soon as I get up, again, habits. I get up, I put on my shorts, I put on my shirt, I walk out the door, and I go right to the gym to work out.
Right.
I don't even give myself the opportunity
You don't give yourself the option to talk yourself out of it.
It's cold, I'm in Europe.
Okay.
Not even the option.
You're sleepy at this point, but you drag yourself into the gym.
Yes.
And you start moving.
Okay,
and you feel better.
I feel better. What I normally do on day one is I'll do maybe 45 or 50 minutes of cardio and maybe some abs. I do more light stuff because you really are a bit out of it.
You're out of it. So you stick mostly to cardio and abs and just kind of lighter stuff. That's day one.
That's day one.
What do you do day 2?
Day 2, I'll do a full workout.
Okay, so you actually get into the weights.
Yeah, so day 2 is the day that we'll be leaving. Okay. Right, so it's a 3-day trip. Day 1 was leaving Houston. Okay. Day 2 was landing in country, and then day 3 is the day we leave. So,
do you have any trouble sleeping that first night?
Yes, and it's something very weird about the circadian rhythm. And some people have looked it up. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, at about 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning, which is about 9 o'clock our time, you're up. You are just up. And all pilots, all flight crew members are up. Right. It is very, very weird. I don't know what it is, because it's not like at 9 o'clock I would be waking up. At 9 o'clock I'd be going to bed, 9 p.m.
Right.
But you're up. So you may want to read. You may, now, the certain route that I fly right now, we leave at about 8 a.m. So I have to get up at 5 a.m. to work out, 2-hour workout. 5 to 7, and then 7 to 8, and then we go. So at 5 a.m. in Amsterdam, it is 10 p.m. in Houston.
Right.
So I'm getting up to work out at 10 p.m. where people are going to bed.
It just turns you around.
That is really odd. That throws me sometimes.
Do you find that making any modifications to your diet help with the time change?
Well, the one thing, as you know, you retain water, right, when you fly. So you've got that bloated feeling. I try to drink as much water as I can, but in the flight deck, if you drink a lot of water, now you got to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
So it's a challenge.
It's a catch-22.
It's a catch-22. But again, there's never, I don't know what the right rhythm is. I try to drink a lot of liquids because I know I'm feeling bloated.
I found that was really helpful for me when I was traveling across time zones and competing as a professional bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And I would be waking up at 4 a.m. here, knowing that it was 11 a.m. over there, and instead of sleeping in, and then having that much more of an issue trying to convert time zones. But I would stay very, very hydrated. And I felt that was very helpful.
Yeah, definitely hydration is key. I mean, I will bring a lot of water off the plane just to keep myself hydrated. Now, I am a bit different than the average because I bring a lot of my food. So I pre-cook a lot of my food.
Okay, so you are a big believer in coming prepared.
I'm that guy in the flight deck that brings hard-boiled eggs.
Do they look at you kind of funny?
Most people kind of seem to know me by now.
Probably when you crack the hard-boiled eggs.
Well, I did sardines the other day. That didn't go over well. So I bring a lot of my food. I have a little system of what I do. Okay. I will bring fresh food, frozen food, packaged food.
Okay. So interesting. So all three.
I bring all three.
Fresh, packaged, and frozen.
And I eat this. So what I do is I will meal prep every week, and I will take the chicken breasts and all the things, and I will cook them. I'll weigh them and put them in Tupperwares, and then I put them all in the freezer. So my freezer is stacked with Tupperwares.
Okay.
But it's already cooked, so it just is going to thaw.
Right.
So I'm going to eat cold chicken essentially.
Right.
So what I do is when I leave, I have an igloo and I have a backpack, and I will take the igloo and I will put the frozen food in the igloo, along with the fresh food of the chicken breasts and whatever else I'm going to eat.
Okay.
Fish, any of those things. So maybe on the flight over is when I'll have the fresh stuff.
Okay.
I don't normally eat the airplane food because, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they say in order to for your senses to get the taste, they over salt the food.
Yes, it is. It's salty.
So I just stay away from it. I may have a salad and put my tuna on the salad.
Okay.
So I'm that guy that I bring my own tuna packets.
So you're pretty strict.
I try to be pretty strict. I really try to, because even though we have designated meals that we can pick.
Okay.
But when you look at them, they're really not healthy.
You're thinking I can do better.
I could do better. Okay. If I'm going to eat, I might as well try to eat healthy, because you're sedentary. I'm not moving for 12, 14 hours. So I might as well eat healthy. So I not to plug Lee Labrada, but I have my protein shake.
That's not why I brought him on the show.
No, but it is true. So I take my lean body in there. It's funny. So what I do is we have our RTDs that are in the refrigerator, but then we have them that are in the pantry.
Okay.
So I take the ones in the pantry.
Now this is on the plane.
This is on the plane.
Do they allow you to walk the RTD, because it's a liquid, onto the plane?
Yes, as a flight crew member, we're not restricted.
You can do that.
Yes.
Okay.
So I will bring 2 RTDs with me.
Okay.
And I brought some stuff if you want to see what I bring.
I do. I've been eyeing that food bag, so I'm dying to see what's in it. I wanted just to add this for our viewers. Obviously being a passenger, I cannot bring a liquid RTD, ready to drink protein shake onto the flight either.
Correct.
But what I do is I bring the sachets, the packets with the lean body powder.
Yes.
And then I ask the flight attendant for water, and I have a shaker. Yep. And I just mix it up right there, and then voila, I'm good to go.
Yeah. And believe it or not, you'd be happy to know, a lot of people use your product. A lot of the flight crews, flight attendants.
Oh, that's nice.
They use that because it's healthy, and it's something that they can take with them as a powder.
I'm going to send you with a box to distribute like Halloween candy.
Yeah, there we go. So it's because when you're on the road, you can't have anything that's bulky, because you're constricted on space.
That's right.
So we need things that are easy.
Right.
So for us, the RTDs for me is perfect. So what I do is, the plane I fly a Boeing 777, and it's very cold in the cockpit. There's a lot of, because of all the electronics and everything, they a lot of airstream is blowing. So there's this one spot next to me that just has this vent blowing on me. So I take your drink, I set it next to the vent, and that actually blocks the wind and it cools it down for me.
Meanwhile, your electronics equipment's like flashing as it's overheating.
Well,
right?
hasn't happened yet.
No.
But yes, so I do that with the drink. I put it there because that's what I have right before we land, before I have my RTD, before we land going into when I come off my break.
Right.
So that's the drink I have when I wake up.
Okay.
So what I normally do for me, let's say it's a 10-hour flight, I will have a meal, like I'll take well, do you want to see?
Please.
Okay.
I've been eyeballing that bag.
Okay.
So this is, I'm really curious what do you have in there?
Okay, so it's not very pretty.
This is what you typically take on board.
This is a real
All right, what do you got in there?
Okay. So as I said, I do have a
Okay. Guys, this is not a commercial for anybody.
This is what it is. For the protein bars, I have the RX.
Okay, the RX bars.
And I also, our mutual friend Keith Klein got me onto these, the Epic Bar.
The nutritionist Keith Klein. Is that like a jerky?
It's a venison, it's like a meat bar.
Okay, venison meat bar.
Yeah,
okay.
12 grams, 1 gram of carbs.
Okay.
My wife doesn't let me eat these in the house, but they're so good with oil and
sardines.
They're
wonderful. They're a great source of omega-3.
Yes, and so what I do with this is I do this in the hotel room.
Okay, so as to not to scare the rest of the flight crew. No emergency landings.
They frown
right?
on that. So what I do is part of my fresh food is I bring about 6 hard-boiled eggs with me.
Okay,
and I will
Steve,
bring.
Would you hold that up?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the.
So this is the sardine.
These are the sardines, and
in
that's
oil.
And that's the what you had before there. That was
this is the Epic Bar. This is the.
Bar.
I feel like I'm in the QVC,
like a venison bar, right?
Yes. And so what I do is I will bring an avocado, and so I half of this. I will put 2 eggs, half of this, and an avocado.
You travel with that.
I travel with it.
Okay.
Yes.
You don't have your eggs with you today.
I do not bring the eggs.
Okay.
This is just the package. So the nice thing about traveling around the world is you get different spices.
Okay.
So this I get in Tokyo, and it's just a spice.
Okay. Something that you like.
It gives it a little flavor.
Okay.
Yeah. Then, as I said, I have my tuna packets.
Water packed tuna.
Yep. And I just buy these by the case. My wife buys these by the case.
The original travel protein.
This is the best.
I remember we used to eat those cans of tuna like they were going out of style in the 70s.
Yeah.
I used to go to the beach, as a kid, and I would take a bag that had tuna, a can opener, bananas, whatever, and I'd open up that tuna and they'd all start running.
You got to do what you got to do, right? And then I just have different flavors of the protein bars.
The RX bars, right?
Yep. This is more tuna, and then I like coffee. So a lot of countries don't have coffee, so I'll just do regular coffee.
And so you bring instant coffee.
I just bring instant coffee with me.
Instant coffee packs, mix them in with hot water, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and so.
Now, I didn't see a lot of carbs in there. I saw a lot of protein.
Yeah,
do you stick with mostly protein during your flights?
When I'm traveling, and again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but because I'm so sedentary, and I'm retaining water already, I already have a bloated feeling to myself. Okay. So whenever I've done it eating carbs, that just kind of further compounds it.
Okay.
Now, what I do is, and again, I eat the fresh food on the way. The frozen, every hotel that we go to has a refrigerator.
Okay.
So I will put my food in the refrigerator so it's slowly thawing. That would be day 2. And then day 3, I have these things.
Okay. The stuff that's dry packed.
The stuff that's dry packed.
Okay.
And it, again, this is my system.
And it works out great for a 3-day stay.
When I would do Sydney, I had a 5-day stay.
Okay.
Now, certain countries, there's certain things that you're not allowed to bring in because of customs and immigration.
Had any of these things confiscated?
Well, yes. So these are okay, but when you go to, I did have an incident in Santiago, Chile one time.
Okay. So they probably liked your sardines.
Well, no, I had a leftover salad that I didn't finish. And you would have thought that I was bringing somebody illegally into the country because they shut down the conveyor belt and they said, you signed a thing that said you didn't have anything. I said, I don't have anything. And they pull out this Tupperware.
I have my lunch. It's my lunch.
It was leftover. It wasn't like it was fresh. It was just, I didn't finish it. Well, they take me into this back room and they're weighing it and they're having this discussion and they're going back and forth. And one of the other crew members spoke Spanish and I'm sitting there listening. And so they're, having me sign all this paper like I'm buying a house basically. And I'm signing all those documents. And finally they're going to let me off with a warning because I'm a flight crew member. Okay. And I said, hey, can I get that Tupperware? Because my wife is going to kill me if I don't come
back with the Tupperware.
I need that Tupperware back. So Australia, what I used to do is, again, going a little bit above and beyond, we would have a 7-hour rest on the plane, which to me, it still boggles my mind that I'm in a metal tube.
For 7 hours.
17 hours, but 7 hours, I'm sleeping.
They don't let you off.
We're going.
You're still on the plane.
Yeah, we're still on the plane en route. And, you wake up after 7 hours and you're like, wow, we are still have 9 hours to go. Anyways, that just still, about, engineering feats.
Yeah, sure.
But what I would do is I made a deal with the hotel that I would leave a duffel bag in the concierge bag room. And in the duffel bag, I had like dry food. I had my workout bag. I had a lot of this stuff. And then what I would do as soon as I landed, again, I'd have a coffee, I'd change clothes, and I'd go to the grocery store because I had a 3-day layover there. Right. And they were very strict with what you could bring into the country. Right. So, I'll just go to the grocery store. I figured I'll just go to the grocery store. So I had my list. I'd go to the grocery store. Everything had to be cold. I couldn't heat it up. I would buy all the things I needed. I had my can openers. I had my hot sauce. I had all my stuff. And I would just make what I needed in the room. And then as soon as I did that, I would go right to the gym. And funny story, another Labrada plug, but they don't get all the stuff that we get here in the United States, pre-workout, things like this. So I asked them, they were giving me free access to the gym. And I said, hey, is there anything that you need? And they said, well, do you have any pre-workout? And I said, well, I use this stuff called Supercharge. Right. And he's like, oh, could you get this for me? And I said, absolutely. So the next time I came, I brought him some Supercharge and they gave me like a 1-year pass.
That's great. That's great. They loved it.
They loved it because they can't get it down there. For whatever reason, they couldn't get it. So again, I just go back to habits and patterns. Yeah. I think everything, like you said, it's nothing complex. Right.
But it's about being prepared. It's preparation, right? Yeah, it's about being prepared. And I would say it's about having the mental fortitude to plan and follow through on it. And the one thing, Lee, you have to avoid the temptations when that food comes out of first class and you smell that.
Do you guys want a sundae? Yeah. And the one thing I'll say is I remember growing up and people say like, oh, when you get into your 30s, you're not going to be doing this. And I'm like, why? Why not? I don't understand. Why not? Then when you're in your 40s, when you're in your 40s, you're not going to be working out. These are guys that are out of shape.
Steve, I know you just had a birthday.
I did just have a birthday.
Do you want to share how old you are?
Yes, I just turned 50.
And you look amazing.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I got people like you I've got to follow behind.
This guy's got the big chest and arms that you can see, and he's got a small waist to boot.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Again, as you know, I tell people it's not rocket science. It's just one bite at a time. It's just
I like that. One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. Right? It's really that simple.
Yeah, and my dad used to say, put one foot in front of the next, that you just keep moving forward.
Yeah. And I think this is the thing that again, I think it's how you do the little things is how you do everything. Yeah. And if you see people, a lot of times when you see people who are I don't even want to say strict, are standardized. Right. You'll see that follow through in other parts of their life. So
you betcha.
I think that this is a derivative of me learning to work out and being strict.
I found the same thing. Yeah. That working out increased my ability to exhibit discipline in other aspects of my life.
Absolutely.
Because working out can be very hard at times.
Sure.
And if you can make yourself go to the gym and do it and follow through on a consistent basis, you'd be surprised how many things you can accomplish if you apply those same work principles.
Well, and I don't know about you, but for me, going to the gym is a way to clear. It's cathartic. I can clear my head.
It really
I can
is.
think. I just have that ability. And if I didn't, I ask myself, I wonder how I would be. I wonder, like some people tell me, they go, I can't believe you go to the gym. And my answer is, I can't believe you don't.
That's crazy. Let's go back in time.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you've been flying planes for a long time. Mm-hmm. 911 happens.
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about that time frame in your life and some of the shifts that you made in terms of your personal career.
Yeah, so I had just moved from Guam to Houston. My wife and I are from Southern California originally, so we didn't know anyone in Houston, but this was a pilot base for Continental at the time. So our stuff is literally on a ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. They put us up in a condo where we were staying, and 9/11 hits. And you have this, getting hired at a major airline is something that you're good forever. You've got the job, you're with a major airline, you're in a union, you're set for life. And so that's what I believed. 9/11 hit, and 2 days after 9/11, I got delivered a furlough notice. And the furlough notice said basically, we are furloughing 1,200 people. You are on the list.
And you're wondering, what am I going to do now?
What am I going to do? When all you know how to do, you're so specialized to fly an aircraft, there's really nothing else that you're qualified to do. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden I started thinking, what could I do? I started looking on, it wasn't even online back then, it's 2001. Nothing was really anything that I could do. I didn't have the skill set. I didn't have a license. I couldn't even drive a truck because I didn't have a commercial license. I was like, I am unhireable,
You thought you were.
Yeah. And so I thought, what do I do? So I started looking in, we all have that pity party. And once the pity party was over of like, why me or why, I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I affected? Which lasts a couple days. And you're like, okay, I've got to figure this out. One thing that we learned about flying is you've got to work towards a solution. Right. You've always got to work the solution.
And sometimes under a very high pressure timeline.
Correct. So I decided, okay, I've got to work the solution. I've got to find the solution here. So I started thinking, okay, what do people do that are successful? So I started reading. I went to the library and I got a library card, and I started leasing books.
That's the first success trait. Read.
Yes.
Educate yourself.
I read a book a week and I was just trying to understand, what do people do that are wealthy? What do they do? And a lot of things kept going back to real estate. And so I didn't know anything about real estate, but I thought, okay, seems like that's real. It seems like that's something I could do. I could still be a pilot, because even though you get furloughed in the airlines, because it's a union job, once they start hiring, you get your job back. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't know how long that could be. It could be a month. It could be 10 years.
Right.
So you still have to pay your bills. And so I just started reading and learning everything I could about real estate. Started just really engrossing myself on all that I could. And I ended up realizing, like, okay, this is something that I could do. So I started doing some real estate transactions, and I really liked it. And
So how did you get into your first real estate transaction?
So
in other words, did you have money saved up? Did you go out and borrow money?
So I learned about creative real estate investing, which was, at the time, it was called it wasn't even called wholesaling, but basically it was buying. It was in essence like the term of flipping a house. And I paid a mentor a certain amount of money, and he said, if you do what I say, I'll show you how to do this. And I thought, okay, this is a way that I could make some money.
Sure.
Because the Chicken Little in me was a little nervous, because I thought, if I get furloughed, I'm not going to have any money. If I put all my money to buy a house, I'm going to be in a bad position, which I didn't want to do. And so I learned how to flip these houses.
Okay.
By basically buying it and selling it and making the difference in between very quickly.
Okay.
And the guy who showed me how to do this, I did my first transaction and made a certain amount of money. And I said, wow, that's amazing. Like, it was like 30 days I did this. Checked for like $20,000. And I thought, you must make a lot of people wealthy. And he said, believe it or not, you're one of the few people that actually followed through in doing it.
Wow.
I said, really? I said, what?
It just goes to show you how important follow through is in anything in life.
Yeah.
Right?
I said, what? I don't understand. Why would people pay you this money to teach? And he said, you'd be surprised. And that was very odd to me. So I kept doing that and kept making money. And I did this for about a year and a half, 2 years. And I made enough money to go into partnership on an apartment complex.
Okay.
So my first transaction was actually owning an apartment building.
That's crazy.
Here in Houston, over in Spring Branch. And what I realized was that it's the grass is greener theory. So I went into partnership with 3 other people who I'm still friends with today. They wanted to learn what I was doing because they saw the money I was making. I wanted to learn what they were doing because theirs was passive, mine was not. And so it's that, and I was still, so let me just segue with the airline job. I came within 30 from the bottom of getting furloughed, and they stopped it. And I was flying out of Newark. So I was based in Newark, flying out of there, commuting back home to Houston, doing these real estate transactions.
So you're doing both.
I'm doing both.
You're balancing flying airplanes and then doing real estate transactions when you're home.
Correct.
Okay.
And, again, you do what you have to do.
Sure.
It's not even an option. It's you do what you have to do. And I don't want to say it's better. I'm not going to say getting furloughed would have been better, but I don't like when I don't know my fate. I don't like the fact that I didn't know what was coming. And
most people don't like the unknown.
Yes. And so I kept thinking, like, if there's another attack, and I don't know if you recall this time.
That was a sense of unease.
We had foot and mouth disease. They had SARS going on. They had oil prices spiking. And we were joking. It was like the locusts were going to come next, right?
Yes, right.
We were in a concessionary contract.
It was for those of us that remember, that are old enough to remember. It was just a time of unease, not knowing what was going to happen next.
Yeah, and so what I realized was I just have to keep moving. Mm-hmm. I just have to keep moving forward. And
that's awesome.
And the thing that I remember, and people even today they'll say, "Why do you keep flying?" Why because financially I'm okay.
Right, you've done very well with real estate, but you're still flying.
Yeah,
and it's because you love it.
I love it. It's like saying, "Why do you keep working out, Lee? You're already in shape."
Because I love it.
I love it. It's
right.
And I always tell people, where is it written that because you have a certain amount in the bank or you have a certain amount of success that you have to stop doing what you love?
Right.
Now, if you don't love something, that's a different story.
Right. That's different.
But for me to get in an aircraft and, 300 of my closest friends and go to Hawaii or Tokyo or, Amsterdam, it's kind of cool.
Dude, what an incredible feeling.
I love it.
I mean, when you are taxiing down that runway, you fly 777s.
Yes. Okay. It's a big aircraft.
I have seen pictures of you standing in front of the engine of one of these beasts, and it is mind-boggling. I mean, the intake on that, the front end of that engine, it's got to be 20 feet across.
It's the one. We have a 777-300, which is a very large one, and they have the largest engines currently in production.
Right,
and I believe what I was told is the engine nacelle, so the engine of that is the same size as a 737 fuselage.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that's a Southwest plane is basically the size of, I mean, it is enormous.
It is enormous.
Yeah.
So
the amount of thrust that this.
Yeah, it's just got to be such an amazing feeling. I wouldn't want to give it up.
The feeling of, and everyone always says, they say, what do you like most? And as you could imagine, taking off, because this is a 775,000 pound aircraft.
That's 750,000 pounds.
Yeah. And so you're in control of this thing. Or,
right.
You're going down the runway and we rotated about 160 knots.
Right.
And I mean, you're going, and you're in charge of this thing. Wow. And what I really love, people ask me, what's the best thing I love, is descending into a new city. I know we're getting a little sidetracked here,
but
okay. I love descending into a new city and life is just going on.
Right.
And I'm just a visitor for a day or two. And you're a part of that. Now I'm a part of their system for a day or two. And then I leave.
Right.
And I love the fact that I land and I'm in Tokyo or Australia or whatever. And you're just in the city with them. And now you're a part of it.
It literally gives new meaning to dropping in.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just dropping in, guys.
Just dropping in for a little bit. And I'm just a visitor.
Yep.
I've got, I'm just like a spectator, and I love people watching. So I'll go walk around and just watch people and stuff. And it's just been, to say I'm blessed to do that would be an understatement, because I just love it. And I'm like, at the point that I don't love doing it, then I may have to have a different conversation.
That's a different story.
Yeah.
Steve, what would you say to people that want to start their own business, that want to have their own business? Because I know that there's viewers out there, that they're sitting on the fence, they're afraid to leave their day job.
Yeah.
And it's normal. It's human.
Yeah.
To have fears of the unknown, but what would you say to those people?
That's a tough question to answer. And the only reason I say that is, in general, as people, we do what we have to, not what we should do. Okay. So when your should becomes a must is when people take action.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's kind of like if somebody smokes their whole life and then they find out they have cancer, they'll pay whatever it is for the cure, but they won't pay for the prevention. So when people know that they should do something better, They should change careers because they're not happy, which is obviously, as we know, related to stress, and that's not good for you. We don't do it. But we'll pay much more for the cure than we will the prevention.
Isn't that something that people will not pull the trigger when they know they should, but they pull the trigger when they must?
Exactly.
It's psychological.
It so much is, and I've learned to act faster in my mind as an entrepreneur. I'm sure as you have to they're risk, but they're more calculated risk because it's the muscle memory of doing these things again.
That's right.
For me, 9/11 was that should became a must. I touched that hot stove and I realized the one thing I remember, and luckily for me, I was able to turn this into a very financially well life, is when someone else was in control of my destiny, meaning the company, the airline, I had no say. I was a cog in a wheel and I had no decision on what was going to happen to me. And I remember going to pick up, now after 9/11, I don't know if you recall this, but all the airplanes, wherever they were in the sky, they had to circle and land at that airport.
Right.
Otherwise they were going to be shot down.
Yes.
Okay. So about 4 days later, after I'd gotten my furlough notice, we were dispatched to go pick up these aircraft. And I remember, I think I was in Denver airport or somewhere. And if you've ever been in an airport when it's empty, it's very eerie. It's very cavernous building.
Very eerie.
No one's in there. There was no life.
And especially because we are so used to seeing these places packed with people.
Yes.
It's just like, okay, where's all the people? This is very strange.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember the eeriness.
It was very eerie. And all the planes on the tarmac were parked like in a jigsaw puzzle, just dead. It looked like an aircraft cemetery. And we were dispatched to go start moving aircraft around and fly them to different destinations. And I remember walking through thinking to myself, my life will never be the same. And I allowed myself to get in this position because I got lazy. Because I listened to people telling me, you're an airline pilot, you're good.
Right.
And I thought, how dumb of me. Like, now I've put myself and my family in a position that I don't know if I can get out of. And I remember telling myself, I will never allow anyone to dictate my life again.
That was the
on any terms. That was the trigger.
That was the trigger.
That was the must.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love that we're talking about this. You are a motivational speaker. I know because I've come and I've listened to you before.
Yes, you have.
So let's just talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about your motivational speaking.
Yeah, I don't think of myself as a guru or anything like that. I am a product of the product. I'm a big believer in self-development because I think that every day we wake up, we make a decision that we are either going to be better or we're going to be worse than the day before. That's it. And we can't get back yesterday, but we can change today.
That's powerful.
And
that's powerful.
You can have a horrible week, a horrible month, horrible year, but today it's fresh.
It's fresh.
The sun comes up, you make a decision. What am I going to be? That's it. And so I have learned that I want to be better every day because if you think you're going to be the same, you're really worse. That's that by default.
Right.
And so I've learned that a lot of people, they need that push. They need someone to hold them accountable. They need someone to tell them, no, it's not okay for you to say, I'm going to sit this one out. It's not okay for you to not be the best version of yourself. It's not okay. And so I'm just a big believer, and I'm probably a little harsher than most, but I tell people I can be nice or I can be honest. Sometimes I can't be both.
Right.
So which one do you want?
But you know what? By being honest, sometimes we're being really, really nice in the long haul for those that understand.
Yeah. And look, everybody resonates with different people, and I'm sure the way I am does not resonate with everyone out there, and that's okay. But the people that do say, you know what, like you have made me look at my life and look at myself. And I don't think it's all about finances. It's not all about health, but it's a combination.
It's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah. You look, I tell people all the time, there's three things. There's health, there's wealth, and there's relationships. You have to have all three of those. You could make the most money in the world, but die of a heart attack cashing the check at the bank.
Right.
Because you didn't take care of your health.
Boy, we've heard those stories.
Sure. Or you could make you could be, you see the people growing up, the gym rats that are living in their car.
Right.
Because they look great, but they don't have a job.
Yes, we've seen those as well.
We've seen those. If I was flying a Boeing 777, would you want me talking about working out or about finances when I'm in the middle of landing?
Right.
Probably not. No. Land the aircraft.
Focus on the airplane.
So I believe that you have to be very focused.
Right.
Finish and then pivot.
What can someone expect by being coached by you? Because I know you coach athletes and executives, and what can they expect?
Well, what I do with people is I want to understand what is their end destination, because it's not my destination. It's not yours. I need to understand, what do you want out of life? And if you don't know, that's okay not to know, but at least now we can start looking towards that. So my question to everybody is, if you get in the car, you're driving to a destination. If you start a business, your business should be going to a destination. Many people live their life with no destination. So how do you know you're going to reach something if you don't even know what that is? If
you don't know where you're driving, how are you going to get there?
How are you going to get there?
Yeah. And how are you going to know when you're there?
And I use the example of people in business. If you and I got in an airplane and I said, hey, Lee, today we may go to Hawaii. We're not sure where we're going to take off. We're just going to take off. I don't even know how much fuel I have, Lee. We're just going to give it a whirl. And I've never done this before, but let's give it a shot.
Right.
You probably would not want to get on that aircraft.
That's right.
But how many people do this with their business? They start a business. They don't know how much fuel they have. They don't know where they're going. They have no final destination.
That's right.
And they're going, hey, I'm just busy every day.
Right.
But I'm like, but you haven't gone anywhere. You're just taxiing around the airport.
Just going in circles.
So what I try to give people is that clarity of first saying, number one, what do you want? And it's funny. I'll ask people this. What do you want? They will go on a 5-minute rant telling me all the things that they don't want. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want this. I don't want that. Well, we have what's called a reticular activating system, which is a filter in our brain. And it's in the subconscious. And what happens is whatever we talk about is what becomes our reality. So when someone tells me, I don't want this, I don't want that, well, our brain doesn't know that trick, don't.
Right.
So what happens is we actually go right back to what we're running away from.
It just drops that don't, and that sentence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So I ask people, you're running right back into exactly what you're running away from. So many people, entrepreneurs or people in life in general, athletes, you're either running away from something or you're running to something. Most people in life are running away from something, but they don't know where they're running to. So they're just running away from a life they don't want. And I'll ask them, okay, you just told me what you don't want. What do you want? Let's go. Where do you want to run to? And many times they're like, you know what? I've never thought about that. I'm like, well, we need to know where you're running to, because before we even leave the house, let's give you a destination to go to.
So many people are on autopilot, Steve.
Yeah.
And it's just, it seems like we're just a product of our habits.
Absolutely.
And habits stack on top of habits. And we're just on autopilot.
Yeah.
You get up every morning, you brush your teeth, you shave, you take your shower, you dress in the same way.
Yep.
You get in the car, you drive to work in the same way.
Yep.
You have pretty much the same things for lunch or dinner. I mean, it's just, we're creatures of habit.
Absolutely.
And if we don't assess those habits from time to time and recalibrate, we're in trouble.
Well, and again, your habits don't get better. They normally I've never heard someone say, well, I've been doing this all the time and I'm much better than before.
Not unless you do it conscientious.
Absolutely. But on an autopilot.
Yes, not on autopilot.
So I am very intentional. Like when I get up in the morning, I have a habit. I have patterns. I do affirmations. I write down my morning I am affirmations every morning. I write them down. And that's what your brain is looking towards. I'm running towards what I want. And so your subconscious is constantly looking for these things that you're writing down. So I write down those. I read, right? I try to meditate. I'm not the best at that. I do need to get better at that.
It's hard to turn it off sometimes.
It is very hard, but I do those things and then I go to the gym. So it takes me about my wife laughs at me because it'll take me about an hour by the time I get up to the time I walk out the door. She's up and gone in like 10 minutes.
So do you write down your affirmations and do you just read them aloud?
I just write them down. I don't read them. I write them down and I read them out, and I rewrite them every day. Every single day
you rewrite.
I rewrite them every single day.
Whatever your goal is, you write this out every single morning.
Well, the affirmations are about they're 20 statements, and what an I am affirmation statement is you're saying what you want to happen in the future in the present form. So I'll give you and what's very interesting is many of these things have actually come to reality. So when I was younger, I am making over 7 figures a year. Well, that happened. I am a world-renowned speaker traveling the world. That happened. So
you say it in the present tense.
As if it's already happened.
As if it's already happened, and you read it every morning when you wake up.
I write them. I rewrite them. There's something with the brain with actually pen to paper.
Actually exercise the pen and write them out.
And again,
that's
health,
fascinating.
Wealth, and relationships.
Okay, so you break it into those three categories, and then you basically write those things down under each column.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then what I do is...
What do you do with them when you're done?
I just set them aside.
Okay.
And then the next day I pick it up again.
You pick it up and do it again.
And I re-look at them and I just rewrite them.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And it works, doesn't it?
Well, my thing is why reinvent the wheel? People that I've read books with, that I've learned, they do it.
They
so
do
I'm
that too.
Why don't I just do what they do?
Yes. I'm a product of self-affirmations as well.
I am too.
But I will tell you, if I'm perfectly honest, that if I don't remind myself to do the affirmations, then I'll fall off.
I have on my phone.
Yes.
In the morning at 4 a.m. The reminder goes off.
Comes out. Do your affirmations.
Read 10 minutes affirmation. So it just reminds me every morning, Monday through Friday.
That's perfect. I'm gonna be doing that.
There you go. See that?
Okay. So if people want to purchase your books, or if they want to learn about your speaking engagements, your seminars, where do they go?
Easiest place is probably my website. So it's steverosenberg.com, Rozenberg. They can also follow me on social media, Rosenberg Steve, if you want to see me traveling and where I go around the world and all that.
I do follow you.
Yes,
and I love the images, the videos.
Yes.
Of like the other day you had a video of the inside of your cockpit.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, brother, that those seats look very uncomfortable to sit in for 18 hours. I just don't see how you do it.
They're tough. They could be a little better, we'll say. Yes.
Right. But it's fascinating, your Instagram. So I would encourage all you guys to follow Steve on Instagram and check out his website. He's got a lot of great material. Steve, this has been fantastic today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I appreciate
Thanks for the stuff. I'll share it with the rest of the crew, all the stuff.
That's great. Thanks for being on the show here. So help us grow the Lee Labrada Show by telling at least one friend about it, and make sure that you hit that subscribe all button, so that you are primed and ready to receive any of our new podcasts. I just want to thank you for tuning in today. And Steve, I want to thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, you guys, as I always say, stay motivated, get up and look up, and God bless.
The Lee Labrada Show.
Thunder from a distant shore. Voices in my head imprison me.